It sounds impossible, but there's a place in America where the sun vanishes for 65 straight days, where a single glacier is bigger than the entire state of Rhode Island, and where the ground beneath your feet has been frozen solid for hundreds of thousands of years. A place so enormous that if you laid it over the lower 48, its western tip would sit on San Francisco and its eastern edge would reach Jacksonville, Florida. That place is Alaska, and most of us barely know the half of it. Today, you'll discover 17 geographical facts about America's last frontier that will completely change how you see this state, and probably make you question everything you learned in school. And stick around, because near the end, we'll reveal how Alaska somehow holds the northernmost, the westernmost, and the easternmost point in the entire United States, all at the same time. Let's get into it. Number 17. It's 2.5 times bigger than Texas. Everyone knows Alaska is big, but most people don't realize just how absurdly big. At 665,384 square miles, Alaska isn't just the largest state, it's more than double the size of Texas. You could fit Texas inside Alaska roughly 2.5 times. In fact, Alaska is larger than Texas, California, and Montana combined. It accounts for about 1/5 of all US land area. If Alaska were its own country, it would be bigger than all but 18 nations on Earth, larger than Iran, larger than Mongolia. That's not a state, that's a continent pretending to be one. Number 16. Its coastline is longer than all other states combined. Here's where it gets surreal. According to NOAA, Alaska's tidal shoreline stretches roughly 33,904 miles. Florida, the runner-up, has about 8,400. Louisiana comes in third, around 7,700. Even using the most conservative NOAA measurement of 6,640 miles, Alaska still has more coastline than every other US coastal state put together. It's the only state with shoreline on 2 oceans, the Pacific and the Arctic, and barrier islands make up a significant stretch of its exposed Arctic coast. Number 15. It has over 100,000 glaciers. According to the US Geological Survey, Alaska contains more than 100,000 glaciers, covering roughly 5% of the state, about 75,000 square kilometers of ice. The Malaspina Glacier alone spans around 1,680 square miles, making it larger than all of Rhode Island. The Bering Glacier, combined with its ice field, stretches 126 miles and is the largest glacier in North America. And the Hubbard Glacier, the continent's longest tidewater glacier at 76 miles, has been advancing for over a century. In 1986, it dammed an entire fjord and triggered the largest glacial lake outburst flood ever recorded. Meanwhile, Alaska's glaciers are collectively losing about 75 billion tons of ice per year, contributing roughly 7 to 15% of global sea level rise from glacier melt. Number 14. It's less densely populated than Mongolia. Alaska's population sits at about 741,000 people spread across 665,000 square miles. That works out to roughly 1.3 people per square mile, dead last among all 50 states. New Jersey, the densest, packs in about 1,263 people per square mile. That's nearly 1,000 times more crowded. Here's the kicker: Mongolia is often called the least densely populated country on Earth at about 5 or 6 people per square mile. Alaska is even emptier than that. Anchorage alone holds about 40% of all Alaskans. San Francisco, a city of roughly 810,000, has more people than the entire state. Number 13. It has more active volcanoes than the rest of the US combined. Alaska contains about 140 volcanoes and volcanic fields, with more than 50 historically active since the 1760s. The state averages 1 to 2 eruptions every single year and holds more than 3/4 of all US volcanoes that have erupted in the past 200 years. The most dramatic, the Novarupta Katmai eruption of June 1912, which was the largest volcanic eruption of the entire 20th century anywhere on Earth. It blasted out roughly 30 times more material than Mount St. Helens and created the Valley of 10,000 Smokes. The blast was heard 750 miles away in Juneau. I remember reading about this eruption as a kid and thinking it had to be made up. 30 times bigger than St. Helens? It didn't seem possible, but it happened. Number 12. The sun disappears for over 2 months. In Utqiagvik, America's northernmost town, sitting at 71 degrees north latitude, the sun set on November 18, 2025, and didn't rise again until late January 2026. That's roughly 65 consecutive days of polar night. But the flip side is just as extreme. From May through early August, the sun never sets at all, about 84 days of continuous daylight. In Fairbanks, the summer solstice brings nearly 22 hours of sunlight, and locals celebrate with the Midnight Sun baseball game, which has been played at 10 p.m. without artificial lights since 1906. The Inupiat people of Utqiagvik greet the returning sun each January with a traditional dance on rooftops, standing at the highest point they can reach to spot the first sliver of light on the horizon. Number 11, it has over 2,600 named islands. Alaska's archipelago is staggering. Over 2,670 named islands dot its coastline. Kodiak Island alone covers 3,588 square miles, making it the second largest island in the United States, and is home to roughly 3,500 Kodiak brown bears, the world's largest brown bear subspecies, with individuals exceeding 1,500 pounds. The Aleutian chain stretches over 1,100 miles westward, with 57 volcanoes scattered across it. And Admiralty Island has the highest concentration of brown bears in North America, roughly 1 bear per square mile. Before we continue, if you're enjoying this deep dive, go ahead and subscribe. We explore the wildest corners of American geography every week, and you won't want to miss what's coming next. Number 10, 3 million lakes and the third longest river in America. Alaska contains over 3 million lakes larger than 5 acres and more than 12,000 rivers covering 365,000 total river miles. The Yukon River runs 1,980 miles, making it the third longest river in the United States, draining a basin of 330,000 square miles, which is 25% larger than Texas. And then there's Iliamna Lake, Alaska's largest, spanning about 1,000 square miles and reaching 988 feet deep. It hosts one of only 2 known freshwater harbor seal populations anywhere on Earth. Number 9, fjords that rival Norway. Alaska's coastline is carved with dozens of major fjords, those deep, glacially carved inlets flanked by towering walls of granite. Kenai Fjords National Park alone covers nearly 670,000 acres and is fed by the Harding Ice Field, one of the largest in the country, which sends at least 38 named glaciers down to the sea. Tracy Arm Fjord runs about 45 miles south of Juneau, terminating at the twin Sawyer Glaciers. And Misty Fjords National Monument spans 2.3 million acres with granite cliffs rising over 3,000 vertical feet straight from the water. A friend of mine took a boat through Tracy Arm a few summers ago and said the walls of ice on either side made him feel like he'd left the United States entirely. Number 8, more caribou than people. As the Alaskan Department of Fish and Game reports, the state is home to roughly 950,000 caribou across 32 herds, actually outnumbering the human population. But that number masks a dramatic collapse in some herds. The Western Arctic herd, once Alaska's largest, plummeted from 490,000 animals in 2003 to just 121,000 by 2025, its lowest level since the 1970s. The porcupine caribou herd, at about 143,000 as of the most recent census, is now the state's biggest. Alaska also holds about 30,000 brown bears, which is over 98% of all brown bears in the U.S., roughly 100,000 black bears, up to 200,000 moose, and around 70,000 bald eagles. Bristol Bay's Sockeye Salmon Run, the world's largest, totaled 56.7 million fish in 2025, the 11th straight year above 50 million. Number 7, the second largest earthquake ever recorded. On March 27, 1964, at 5:36 p.m., the Great Alaska Earthquake struck at magnitude 9.2, the second most powerful earthquake ever recorded on Earth. The ground shook for 4.5 minutes. It ruptured 800 kilometers of fault with up to 60 feet of slip. The resulting tsunami killed people as far away as Crescent City, California. But here's the part most people miss. According to the Alaska Earthquake Center, the state accounts for roughly 75% of all magnitude 5+ earthquakes in the entire United States. Alaska experiences 35,000 to 55,000 seismic events per year. A magnitude 7 or greater hits roughly every 2 years. Number 6, the ground has been frozen for millennia. About 80 to 85% of Alaska sits on permafrost, ground that has remained continuously frozen for thousands of years. On the north slope near Prudhoe Bay, permafrost extends down 2,000 feet or more. But Alaska is warming 2 to 3 times faster than the global average, and that frozen ground is thawing. A 2025 study in Nature projected $37 to $51 billion in damage to Alaska's buildings and roads by mid-century. Entire villages like Nutok, Kivalina, and Shisharev are already in the process of relocating because the ground beneath them is literally disappearing. Number 5. It spans 4 former time zones. Alaska stretches 2,400 miles from east to west and 1,420 miles north to south, covering 57.5 degrees of longitude, essentially matching the entire east to west span of the lower 48. Until 1983, Alaska was split across 4 separate time zones. That year, Transportation Secretary Elizabeth Dole consolidated them into 2, Alaska Time and Hawaii Aleutian Time. The international dateline itself is bent around the outer Aleutians so that all of Alaska stays on the same calendar day. Number 4. A temperature swing of 180 degrees. On January 23, 1971, a pipeline workers' camp at Prospect Creek recorded minus 80 degrees Fahrenheit, the coldest temperature ever measured in the United States. The very next day, nearby Aleutian posted a high of minus 66, which is still the coldest daily high in Alaska's history. But flip to summer, and Fort Yukon hit 100 degrees Fahrenheit on June 27, 1915, tying Hawaii's all-time record. That's a swing of 180 degrees within one state. And Valdez averages about 300 inches of snow per year, making it the snowiest city in America. Nearby Thompson Pass once recorded over 974 inches in a single season. Number 3. The only state that's north, west, and east. This is the fact that breaks people's brains. Alaska holds the northernmost point in the US, Point Barrow, at 71 degrees north. It holds the westernmost point, Kodiak Island, at 179 degrees west. And because the Aleutian Islands cross the 180th meridian, Alaska also technically holds the easternmost point, Semi-Sopagnoy Island, sitting in the eastern hemisphere. One state, 3 geographic extremes. And right along that line sit the Diomede Islands, with Little Diomede on the American side and Big Diomede on the Russian side, separated by just 2.4 miles of ocean and a 21-hour time difference. In 1987, swimmer Lynn Cox crossed between them and received congratulations from both Ronald Reagan and Mikhail Gorbachev. Number 2. Denali rises higher than Everest, from base to peak. At 20,310 feet, Denali is the tallest mountain in North America. But here's what most people don't know. Measured from base to summit, Denali rises roughly 18,000 feet, the largest vertical rise of any mountain entirely above sea level on Earth. Everest base to peak rise is only about 12,000 to 15,000 feet because it sits atop the Tibetan Plateau. Denali is also the 3rd most prominent and 3rd most isolated major peak on the planet. Its Koyukon Athabascan name, Denali, means the High One. In 2015, the federal government officially restored that name. In January 2025, a presidential executive order changed it back to Mount McKinley. Alaska's legislature voted to oppose the change, and most Alaskans still call it Denali. My wife's uncle flew a bush plane past the summit years ago and said it was the only time in his life the sky made him feel small. Number 1. America bought it for 2 cents an acre. At 4 in the morning on March 30th, 1867, Secretary of State William Seward and Russian diplomat Baron Edward de Stockel signed a treaty purchasing Alaska for $7.2 million in gold, roughly 2 cents per acre. Critics called it Seward's Folly, Seward's Icebox, and even Wall Russia. The New York World called it buying a sucked orange. But here's what they got wrong. The U.S. Senate Historical Office has found that the universal opposition narrative is, in their words, one of the strongest historical myths in American history, and most major newspapers actually supported the deal. Russia sold because of Crimean war debts and the fear that Britain might seize it. The formal handover happened at Sitka on October 18, 1867, where the Russian flag famously got stuck on its flagpole. Within 30 years, the Klondike Gold Rush proved every critic spectacularly wrong. In today's dollars, $7.2 million is roughly $160 million. For a piece of land that turned out to hold some of the largest oil reserves, fisheries, and mineral deposits in the Western Hemisphere. It might be the greatest real estate deal in human history. So, which fact surprised you the most? Was it the glacier bigger than Rhode Island? The 2 cent per acre price tag? Or finding out Alaska is somehow the easternmost state in the country? Drop it in the comments. Let's see how many of us picked the same one. And if you think we missed a fact, tell us below. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button so we can keep exploring the wildest corners of American geography together. Stick around for the next video on screen. We've got even more unbelievable facts from across the US coming your way.